Yes, master.
Top 5 raid characters, courtesy of good old Maurice, the Alliance, and Remon. So I want to hear who we have at number 5, Maurice. Who's our number 5 raid character this week?
All right, number 5 is Death Trooper.
Ooh, why do we pick?
Yep.
Why do we pick Death Trooper to be the number 5 raid character in the game, Maurice?
Death Mark. That's the end. I mean, the P3, these Chex Mix teams, P3 in general would be nearly impossible if it were not for Death Trooper. Sure, Han's great because you stand alone with him. You know, CLS lead, Han counters, but all of that's made possible because of Death Mark. I mean, arguably the best single ability versus the Sith raid, arguably. Just that's really it. I mean, it's just Death Mark is so important for P3. That's really all there is to it. And otherwise, I mean, you can use them on Trooper teams, other Empire teams. It all focuses on Death Mark, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that he's a key to that team, and also there has been talk, you know, people have been afraid that they're going to nerf Death Mark at some point because of how effective it is. I think we're safe with Death Mark. And I know we had discussed last week possibly if there's going to be maybe another character that applies Death Mark, and I don't think so. I think that he will be the only one that applies Death Mark. I think that will kind of be his ability, at least for the foreseeable future. But, you know, who knows? I mean, they did originally only give Expose, I believe, to one character. Wasn't Poe the first character that had Expose?
Poe and Mace. Well, no, Mace Windu didn't get it till later, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But yeah, Poe was. Well, no, I think Poe had it, and Resistance Pilot had it. I can't remember if Trooper had it originally or not. It's been a while. They redid some of those Resistance a long time ago. I can't really remember what they did prior to it. Yeah. And Mace Windu might have been an addition as well to try to make him a little better with the random exposed chance that he never attacks anyway. You know,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. But that's our number 5 raid character in the game. Moving along to our number 4 raid character in SWGOH, we have Visas Mar. So why do we have her here, Maurice?
Well, Visas Mar, her entire kit is revolved around, you know, anti-Sith, and it's the Sith raid. We've seen the Grandmaster Yoda teams that are arguably better and putting up higher scores than the raid team or the Jedi training raid teams in P1. It's because of Visas. You mod her super slow, no speed, you know, lots of offense. She counters, she assists, she heals. Just a fantastic character all around for the raid. Lots of teams, and we'll see a lot more creative teams come out as more. You know, she's farmable now. She's hard node, so more and more people will be getting her soon and testing her out and experimenting. Because right now it's just a handful of players, and you know, and you guys, the game changers that have access to her. I'm not sure how popular she was as a marquee character because they released her right beside Scion, right? So I'm not sure how many people took that plunge, but
I think she got a lot of bad press coming out the gate, but she was kind of a sleeper, and now I have to say, I think she's one of the underrated players in this game. I gotta tell you, you know what I'm saying? I think she's got a lot of value, not only in the raid, but also in arena. And I think that there'll be more compositions, and as the Sith continue to kind of dominate the meta, you see more Treyas out there. I think you're going to see more Visas too. And it's, I made a video a few weeks back, actually, running a Grandmaster Yoda lead when his rework had first arrived, and put Visas in that squad, and we were able to take out, you know, this Treya-led team with pretty, you know, with relative ease, and you know, can do that even better if you have better mods on the team. So I think that's yes. I mean, obviously her value in the raid is tremendous, being a specifically anti-Sith character. I mean, the reason she was released and created in the first place was to counter the Sith and be a great addition to that team. She was obviously behind a paywall, so not a lot of people have 7-star Visas yet, but a lot of people are on their way there and getting there very soon. from farming her through hard notes. So I think as that continues to happen and people start to pop up with more and more 7-star visas, I think you'll see her become one of the most important characters in that Sith raid, if not the most important character.
Well, she's not a Jedi, but there's really so many good Jedi to go around, right? And you got your Basilisk and you got your Grandmaster Yoda team. Now, if you ever wanted to divide your Jedi up into 2 decent teams, you're going to need visas probably, because there's just, what are you going to do? Throw in old school Ahsoka Tano and Anakin? No, thank you. No thanks.
No thanks.
But yeah.
Okay, that's our number 4 raid character in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Our number 3, who do we have here, Maurice?
Wampa.
Oh, yeah.
The king of P2. Just so much damage. Yes, the dots don't stick, and the Zeta's absolutely worthless. You don't need a Zeta for the Sith Triumphant raid. We're talking about that specific raid. No Zetas needed. He is a little more difficult to gear, especially compared to some of these newer characters. He's only obtainable in the Guild Event store, but both of those characters in that Guild Event store should be your priority over any gear to start. Fantastic character, and because it's a raid, he has lots of opportunities to use his Furious Foe, keep stacking up his crit chance, keep stacking up his damage, all sorts of stuff. You don't really need to mod him with crit chance because of that. You mod him crit damage, pretty quick. Doesn't really need health protection, just damage. Just a great character. Does, especially if you put those, like you have him displayed here, the 2 bayonets and the multi-tool on him. He does wicked damage. Pretty much, you can use him. A lot of people use him under a Boba Fett lead in P2. Some people, like I use him under a GK lead, paired with Thrawn, Hermit Yoda, and who's my 5th? Sabine. You get that armor shred, then you just have Wampa going to town, just putting up 4 or 5 million damage. Some of these screenshots I've seen. The king of P2 again.
It could be a she Wampa. We never know. If we had another play to give event, we'd find out, just like we did about Resistance Pilot.
Yeah. Surprise.
It's a female. Yeah, but we'll find out one day. But Wampa also has a lot of viability in the AAT raid in that Wampanator team, and is able to basically solo the raid. Am I correct?
That is correct. That is one where the Zeta comes into play. It just, especially if you have the Zeta, you could definitely auto P3 and P4. P1 does take a little bit of finesse and management, but P2, you just, once you get about halfway through it, you got 7-8 turns left to a raid, you can hit auto and just done. Goes all the way through. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, Wampa has a lot of viability in multiple raids, and basically gives you the ability to solo a raid that was once thought to be unsoloable in the past. And obviously you'd have to have the right composition around that, but overall Wampa's got a ton of viability in all the raids, and that's due to the the stacking bonuses, and also because Wampa's just such a hard-hitting countering character. Obviously when you're talking about stacking protection, and also counterattack, and be able to hit as hard as Wampa can hit throughout the course of the battle, the character just adds a ton of viability to any raid team, and not only in the Sith raid, but like I said, in the AAT and even the Rancor raid, you can use a Wampa to put a hurting on the raid boss. So that's our number 3 raid character in SWGOH. Moving along to our number 2 raid character in SWGOH. You know her, I know her. She's Rey Jedi Training. So,
yep.
Pretty self-explanatory. Rey Jedi Training is the Sith raid at the moment. But go ahead, Maurice. Tell me what you think.
Well, I don't. I think if it weren't for JTR, we would have just a handful of guilds. Prior to the Jedi reworks and additional characters, there'd be a handful of guilds that could beat this raid. She is the answer to P1 If you're not completing the heroic Sith, you're doing T5, T6, T4, whatever it is. You can use her for every phase. She's arguably one of the better teams for P2 still, but just she's the best team for P1. Or the most, I don't know. Her and Grandmaster Yoda are coin flip now is the best, but an option for P1, very good for every other phase as well. You can use her P4, to take down Nihilus just to start. In a lot of guilds, when you first try the heroic Sith raid, you bring in your best teams just slowly for P1 until you get it, and then you save all the rest of your Jedi training raid teams for P4 for Nihilus again. So that's how important she is when guilds are like assigning who goes in and to save your specific team for this phase and this phase. Now, granted, what makes her so great also is the addition of BB-8, Resistance Trooper. I mean, it's the whole team comp, but she is the lead, and she is the most important piece. So basically, that whole entire team is number 2 to go along with her.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she basically is the answer, was the first answer for everybody in this new Sith raid, or the newest raid, the Sith raid, is raid Jedi training. When we first dove into the raid, that was the only team that I could think of that would be able to do any damage, and she, for a lot of people, was the only way to kind of dip their toe in there in comparison to some other people that have larger rosters and can kind of, just mash through some phases by just doing a little bit of damage. If you don't have, a full maxed out Gear 12 roster, you're not going to be able to do a lot of damage in P4. But with a little bit of strategy and with a little bit of patience, with a Raid Jedi training team, you can do a pretty good run, and that was really the first answer that we all found out to this raid. Obviously, since then, there's been a lot of other options that have come up, the Jedi, the Night Sisters, things like that, but when it all first started, it was Raid Jedi training and the...
when the raid came out, you were not getting into a heroic Sith guild or a guild that's close to it without raid. Like, right. The guild officer, whoever's in charge of recruiting, would review your roster, and the first thing they would go to is to see if you had Rey. If you didn't have Rey, no, you can't join because we need Reys to beat this raid.
Right.
When admission into a guild is based on a group of characters, they're pretty important for the raid. So she made the list, obviously.
Agreed. And now our number 1 raid character in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. He's short, and he's got a lot of force abilities, but he doesn't actually hit anyone. Hermit Yoda. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why Hermit Yoda? But I think it's because he escapes. Listen, he's the only character in the Sith raid that can leave the raid after a battle is done. Period. Okay, and he also, obviously has the ability to buff up the entire Jedi team, he's, I think, a key to that Grandmaster Yoda team and keeping them, able to, first of all, call in all those assists throughout the course of the battle with the Master's training buff, but also, obviously healing the team. And he's got a ton of viability in other raids as well. But let me hear your thoughts on why he's good in this raid, Maurice.
Well, the retreat, what you just mentioned on the retreat, is the sole reason he took 1 and not 2. If you go in there with that Grandmaster Yoda team, like you said in P1, and let's say you get your 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how good your team is, and then Grandmaster Yoda escapes. You now have a P2 team. You can either use the Akbar lead. He's great with Akbar. Him and BB-8 both are great with Akbar because they don't have any. You don't ever use their physical attacks. Hermit doesn't have one, so every time you use it, they're like the I don't know what they call it, the machine gun Leia, the rock, whatever it is. Where Leia just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and Hermit Yoda's heals every turn is basic. You put that Zeta on, he will heal protection. He gives Jedi foresight. Just adds so much survivability to any team you put him on. Just a great team. And of course, the assist moves, he gives the battle meditation. Is that what it is? What's the name of his?
It's Master's Training.
Yeah, Master's Training gives that buff, and then next thing you know, by turn 4, turn 5, all 4 characters have it, and every time he uses that move, he goes stealth, calls them all to assist. Just a great, and that's how you get Wampa going that way. Just under that GK lead, he's basically got 2 assists in his kit, where everyone like AOE assists. So he doesn't do any physical damage himself, but he generates massive amounts of damage for any team with a Akbar lead or a GK lead, and those are 2 of the main comps people are using for P2. So
it's a fantastic character all around. I mean, also great character, in a Bastila team. Great character. If you're running a Bastila team in P2 of the Sith Raid, we saw some videos. I believe Arnold had a video of doing what was it, like 4 or 5 million in P2.
And that team is just I'll fool around with it once she's farmable. She's one of the rare exceptions in this game where you can use her at 3 and 4 stars and be effective in all the other game modes. Not the raid, obviously, unless you're doing T4 or T3. But
once you have a Bastila at 7 stars, you'll be able to use Hermit Yoda in P1, P2, a lot of different phases. So Hermit Yoda is definitely, the only character that can escape this raid, because nobody can except for him. And he's just a great all-around character. I mean, he heals the team, spreads buffs, calls an assist. He's definitely one of the best raid characters in the game. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why no Night Sisters? But we did think about them, and that's why Asajj Ventress is our honorable mention. So we didn't really want to place them anywhere specific. Asajj Ventress sort of represents a lot of the Night Sisters, but we didn't want to place them all in any specific spots, because, again, we want to wait a little bit to see how this nerf pans out, and if there's any adjustments made. Again, we're still in the weekend here. CG was, they're usually not at the offices on Saturday and Sunday, so if they are going to make any more adjustments to the raid and to any of the mechanics that they've adjusted over the last couple of days, it's not going to happen until Monday or Tuesday of next week or this week. So, I think that right now they're kind of in a weird spot, but the Night Sisters still are a team to be reckoned with, I think, in the raid, even after the nerf, and Asajj Ventress definitely has a place on this list for sure.
Oh, for sure. It's just in, very well. I mean, maybe these nerfs come out and they're still a dominant team, and, maybe she's justified to maybe get bumped up a slot or 2. We'll see. I mean, it hasn't happened long enough, and I think it's bugged right now. Like, you're not healing at all when you get above 20 bonds. I think it's kind of bugged. I've only done 1 raid, and, they go so quick, I don't have time to sit there and examine it and really, comb through all the mechanics and look at all the details. I'm just trying to get my scores in as quick as I can. So we'll see. A lot to see, and it might not be as bad as people think. Yes. You're not going to be able to solo it like the 40 million, but you can still probably get 2 million plus in P4. I mean, if you're trying to do the raid for the first time, if everyone gets 1-2 million with their Night Sisters in P4, you're in good shape. That's enough. So,
yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. But that's our number.
Yes, Master.